Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is the Surge Effect, and this podcast, well, it'll probably have an effect on you. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Surge Effect. In today's episode of the Surge Effect, we are going to be talking about Trump and Elon Musk and why people hate them so much. And then towards the end of this podcast, I'm going to throw in a little clip in regards with what PBD had to say about Pierre Poilievre, Patrick Bet-David on his PBD podcast. And I'm going to do that towards the end of the podcast. But before I get started with today's podcast, I always talk about a couple of my sponsors. Number one is Love My Legs, Owen Sound, Grey Bruce. Click on the link below. Head on over to their Facebook page and check out all the different ladies' leggings that they have to offer. Number two, Heshirtssheshirts Plus. Same thing. Click on their link below. Go to their Facebook page as well as their web page and direct message them. They have a message, direct message there, and you can get a hold of the people that own that company and see what they have to offer, because they're more than just a t-shirt company. They have all different types of clothing. And now they do laser products. Check them out. And I always like to throw in a couple of things. I got two links down below. One is for bestsellers of things that are on Amazon right now, things that are all the rave and whatnot. Click on those links below and go check them out today and get some stuff off of those pages. They got some pretty cool stuff there. All right, let's get into today's podcast. The very first one we're going to do is, of course, I'm going to talk about Trump and why people hate him so much. And if anyone ever pays any attention to my podcasts, you will know that I do not like the guy. I don't hate the guy. I just try to get knowledge, geopolitical knowledge, world knowledge, knowledge from all different sources. I don't watch any particular type of news. I don't watch like CNN, or I don't watch Fox, or I don't watch all these mainstream media outlets, because like the old saying goes, if you eat what you're fed, right? You eat what you're fed. But I'm going to show you a couple things as we go and as we get going. And I played this one the other day too, this actual picture. It's a basically self-explanatory. Literally says, would you blindfold yourself and eat whatever someone fed you? No? Then stop letting the media do it to you. See, because this has been going on for quite some time, right? People hate Trump. They hate this guy. Some of them just for no reason, and some of them have reasons. I don't know, but we're going to go over some things and try to have an open mind. I try to have an open mind. You know, I have discussions with people all the time, and I've had people walk away from me when we're talking about stuff. And it's like, well, I'm not walking away from them because I will have a discussion with them about it. But here's what Mark Twain had to say about information. No amount of evidence will ever persuade an idiot. No amount. That's just a fact, right? Blind belief in authority is the greatest enemy of truth. Albert Einstein. So, like I said, I've literally had people walk away from a conversation that we're having because they don't like the way it's going. But facts are facts, and facts don't give a shit about your feelings. Facts are facts. And, hey, you're entitled to your opinion, just like I'm entitled to mine. And like I said, I don't hate the guy. I don't like the guy. Same with Pierre Poilievre. I mean, I'm an advocate for the guy because of his policies. He has great policies. I don't love the guy. Don't hate the guy. I really don't know him as a person. All I know is the policies that he's been talking about for years. And some of those policies resonate with me and what I believe. And that's what you should do. You should do the same thing. The things that you believe in, the things you like or dislike or whatever, those are the policies you should be going towards when you're looking at a political player in the system. And, hey, if he's your man, go for it. If he's a Green Party, Go for it. If he's NDP, go for that guy. I just don't like when people say, "Oh, you like the guy," but it's like it's not about liking or hating. It's about information that I know that you may not know. Because the old saying goes, "When you know better, you do better." So when you have information that somebody else doesn't have, maybe when you give it to them, they might have a different opinion, or maybe that doesn't change their mind. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to give you information. You can vote for whoever you want. You can believe whatever you want, and you can hate whoever you want. I guess hate's kind of a strong word. Yeah, like I said, hate's kind of a tough word, kind of a strong word. But listen, I'm going to play you this little clip here from Trump at his State of the Union address, and I noticed a little something that occurred that I noticed during this little bit here. Actually, through the whole thing, but just a little bit I'm going to show you. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you see something towards the end there in the comments. Maybe you might get it before me, but I'll let you know after I do a little bit, a few more of these videos of Trump here. So anyway, what he says here is quite compelling.
Were released into our country. Who would want to do that? This is my 5th such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way.
Look at them. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's disgusting.
So Democrats sitting before me, for just this one night, why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America? For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
See, even after all that stuff he's been through, he's still willing to work with the Democrats. What does that tell you about that guy? He's still willing to work with them. And he's done that 5 times now, and they've done the same thing to him. Sat there with their, on their hands. It's ridiculous. He wants peace. If people can't see that, I don't know. But here's another little clip just from the other day.
See, I think
and this is the one that everyone saw. It went viral all over the place of him and Zelensky. But this is just a small little clip right after that when he was outside talking to reporters.
it's good for the American people to see what's going on. I understand, sir. I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long.
He knows the show. And sunlight truly is the best disinfectant. And right now, Zelensky and his enablers are the biggest obstacles toward peace.
We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up as strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war and play games. We want peace. And it was just my impression that if we do that, if we sign up, he's looking for something that I'm not looking for. He's looking to go on and fight. We're looking to end the death.
Once again, peace. He wants peace, right? And that's what he told Zelensky as well when they had their little spat, little back tit-to-tat back and forth. And that's why he said what he said towards the end as well. This small little clip here, what he says.
People are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen,
please,
you're running
Mr.
low
President.
on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go, and I want this. Look, If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that
what
wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person.
Once again, telling Zelensky, literally in the office, he wants peace. He wants a ceasefire. He doesn't want war, but the warmongers want war, right? Because after that, Zelensky went over to Europe, got together with people through NATO, and they want to push Russia. They want to push Putin's buttons. They want to start World War III. Do you not see that? Do you not see that when you're watching your TV, when you're watching that little program box that's telling you information? They want World War III. Trump was in office for 4 years the first time. 4 years. No war. Zero. Peace. He had peace for 4 years. Now, people see that. I don't get it. Here's the defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, saying literally the same thing when one of the reporters asked him a question.
Previous question from the Washington Post. The press is interested in narratives. Our president is interested in peace. So we will get characterized one way or another. Oh, your stance is pro-Russia or it's all garbage. The president got elected to bring peace in this conflict, and he is working with both sides in a way that only President Trump can. Let's be clear. Only President Trump can, to bring them to the table to end the killing. And I can tell you from being behind the scenes, he is laser focused on making that happen, and we're closer today than we've ever been because of his leadership.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Right? How he wants peace. He simply just wants peace. That's all he wants. But everyone wants war. But him. But they're telling him, oh, he's going to create World War III. Well, I just showed you 4 clips about him wanting peace. Right? So I don't know what else to show you for that part of it. But, when he was shot, he was like, stood up and said, fight, fight, fight. Right? Literally stood up and said, fight, fight, fight. So why do people hate him so much? Why do people hate Trump so much? Well, here's a few things that maybe would shed some light on it, but maybe you're one of these people. I don't know. One major reason is his personality, communication style. The way Trump, he's very brash, confrontational. His approach often marked by insults, exaggerations, or disregard for political norms rubs many people the wrong way. His policy decisions also fuel dislike. His immigration stance, his border stance, family separation at the border, 2018, attempts to end birthright citizenship in 2025, has drawn some barbs from the Dems. His trust or lack thereof is a big factor as well. His rejection of the 2020 election, he keeps bringing that up, his claims. I can go on to detail with all these other little things I'm telling you as well, but that's going to take me another hour. You can look at a lot of this stuff yourself, and I'm here to tell you a lot of these things are kind of whacked. But anyway, like the 2020 election, for instance, he said it was rigged. Well, if you see any of my other podcasts, you'll see there was 18,000 dead people that voted in like Minnesota. 18,000 dead people, literally, was on the polls to vote, and they're dead. They've been dead for years. So if that's not some type of not normal. Anyway, that's just one thing. His partisan lens sharpens these feelings. Democrats overwhelmingly, they despise him. 91% of the Dems despise him. They viewed him as unfavorably in 2023, and 73% gave him a very cold rating in 2024. The Dems hate him. Obviously saw that when he was doing his speech, and they're all sitting on their hands. Specific events like COVID and stuff, of course, turned off the older voters in 2020. And his rapid-fire executive orders, of course, in the 5 weeks. Pre-book slashing federal jobs clashed, of course, with Ukraine, Zelensky in the office the other day. It's not his policy or behavior. Some visceral dislike stems from what he represents, critics. He symbolizes a division of elitism, despite his populist rhetoric or even moral failure, given his 2023 sexual assault liability ruling, blah, blah, blah. And people obviously don't like that, reflecting a sentiment that he undermines America's global standing or democratic ideals, which, I don't know. People have different ways of looking at stuff, but still, context matters, okay? So his approval hit 47% in February 2025, higher than much of his first term, suggesting that it was a honeymoon bump. Supporters, especially white evangelicals, 69% favorably in January 2025, according to an NPR poll. And rural voters love his America First vibe and economic promises. Critics, they see chaos 49% in March 2025. Economists, they both said he wants to be a king, and fear stoked by his centralization of power. So they throw out these little terms, make him, he wants to be this or he wants to be that, right? So when I said earlier about wars, I'm going to go back a little bit here to Franklin D. Roosevelt. He's a Democrat, 33 to 45, World War I. And Pearl Harbor he had to deal with. Harry Truman was 45 to 53. He was a Democrat. He was part of World War I, the Korean War as well. And just towards the end of he ended the Second World War, of course, because of the bomb. Eisenhower, he had 0 wars. He was a Republican, 53-61. And that was 0 wars for him. The Korean War was just ended in 53. And Lebanon intervention, 58 was minor. John F. Kennedy was 61 to 63. He was Democrat. 0 wars for Kennedy. But you have to note, of course, that what started to escalate was the Vietnam involvement. Then the advisors increased the Bay of Pigs in 61. The invasion failed and isn't counted as a war. Lyndon B. Johnson, 63 to 69, was a Democrat. He had 1 war, Vietnam War, 65 to 73. Major escalation, increased U.S. troops starting in 1965. And inherited Vietnam, but turned it into a full-scale war. Richard Nixon, 69 to 74. He was a Republican. He had 0 wars. Gerald Ford, Republican, 0 wars. Jimmy Carter, Democrat, 0 wars. No new wars, except, of course, he had the Iran crisis hostage in 79-81. That was for Jimmy Carter. Ronald Reagan, Republican. He had 1 war, Grenadian invasion, 83. Brief intervention to overthrow a Marxist government. Lebanon peacekeeping, 82, 83. And Libya bombing. George Bush was a Republican. 2 wars. Gulf War led the coalition to expel Iraq from Kuwait, and the Panama invasion, 89, to overthrow Emmanuel Noriega. Also sent troops to Somalia, 92. Of course, Black Hawk down, but conflict escalated later. Bill Clinton, 93 to 2001. Democrat, we had 1 war. Kosovo War and Somali conflict in 93, intervention 95, peacekeeping related in Bosnia, and George Bush in 2001, 2009 was a Republican, of course. He had 2 wars, Afghan War and against the Taliban, and the Iraq War. Obama, 09 to 17, Democrat, 1 war. Libya intervention, 2011, because of Muammar Gaddafi. Donald Trump, 2017, 2021, Republican, wars, 0. As of March 7th to present day, still 0. Now, when you say that there hasn't been any wars in over 40 years, that's, well, because of Trump, he hasn't had any wars since he's been in power. But the other ones, you just heard me read them all off, who had wars and who did not. That is a fact. A fact. All right, so let's listen to what a couple people had to say on TikTok about Trump. I'm just going to play a couple little videos here.
For Democrats my whole life. They never did anything they promised. They would come to the black church and sing some Negro spirituals with us and then disappear, peer. Once they got our vote, they never did anything they promised. I vote for a Republican once in my life, and this dude done did everything he promised on steroids. He ain't even been in office 2 months, and everything I voted for, I'm getting. It's amazing. Do he sleep? Like this dude, if he sleeps, he wake up on a mission to do what Nakia voted for. He said, Nakia want me to fix that border? I'm on it. Nakia want to make sure them tax dollars is being spent for Americans more than anybody else? I'm on it. Like, this dude wakes up, I feel like, with me in mind. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he be thinking about me. It's like being at the casino. You put in that Democrat coin, you put it in and you pull the thing and no, you gonna win. You gonna win. You put in another Democrat coin and you pull the thing and no, you didn't win. You put in that Republican coin. I put in a Republican coin for the first time. Pulled the ding, 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 ding. I freaking won. Wow. So you know what that tells me? That tells me to never vote for Democrats again in life. Ever. Because you're not going to win with them. I voted
So
for
there
a
you go.
Republican.
So that's just one. I'm going to play another one here for you. Another young lady here talking about the same thing.
Couldn't pay me to be a liberal again. You couldn't do it. After watching that speech, I am convinced that Democrats hate America. The way that they didn't stand for Laken Riley's mother, the way that they didn't stand for that little boy who has brain cancer, the way that they didn't stand for that young man who got accepted into West Point. Are you with me on this? The way that they hate America. My God.
See? That young lady felt the same way. And these ladies here, if you want to call them that, these ladies here, on a show you may have heard of called The View. I don't watch The View. Never have. Never will. I see little clips about stupid things that they say and stupid shit that comes out of their mouth. But other than that, I'd never, ever seen an episode. But here's Stephen talking to the girls off The View here. And he's talking about, they asked him a question about Trump. It's quite interesting.
So Trump's only been in office for 6 weeks. Seems like 6 years, doesn't it? And he's been going around with his cronies touting his so-called landslide and blowout win. But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever. And he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. We can sit up there and play around all we want to. In 2020, Trump didn't win the popular vote. He didn't win the electoral college vote. A matter of fact, the Republicans hadn't won the popular vote, if I remember correctly, since 2004. But they did this year. So 20 years after they last won the popular vote, they won the popular vote. They won the electoral college vote. The man won every swing state. And on top of it all, 89% of the counties shifted against. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate. There's a mandate.
Well, it's a different definition of a mandate.
See? They just can't seem to get it. That's a fact. That's the truth. What Stephen A. Smith just said there is factual. You can't lie. You can't twist the numbers. Fact. And some people, they either like it or they don't. I mean, but you still hate the guy or whatever. It's totally up to yourself, right? But the stuff that this guy has endured is kind of crazy. When you think of it, he's been through so much stuff. And I'm just going to read a couple of things. I'm just going to pop this up here while I do that. So what Trump has endured just in his time, his challenges that Trump has faced while running for president is likely from 2024 campaign, given that the context of recent events, based on available information that I've kind of grabbed off the internet, all the things that has happened to him, his legal challenges, his criminal indictments, federal election interference cases from the counsel of Jack Smith, the conspiracy deal, Georgia election case, the conspiracy overturned in Georgia in 2020 for that one, classified documents case where they raided his Mar-a-Lago estate. Literally the other day, they just gave him all those papers back so he can put them back in the same spot. So isn't that crazy? Meanwhile, Joe Biden had them in his garage, but he couldn't go to court over it because he wasn't of a sound mind when he was the president. Do you follow me? Joe Biden did the exact same thing that they charged Trump with, but they couldn't charge Biden or put him in court because they said he wasn't of sound mind, and he was the president of the United States. It's insane. So that was the classified document case. Civil cases was a New York fraud case, $454 million he was going to be paying for that, the inflated piece of property that he had. He valued it at one price, and then, it was money that he borrowed off from a bank. The E. Jean Carroll defamation sexual assault case, $83 million for that one. That was back in the 90s. She didn't even know what building it was in, and that's another thing. It's kind of crazy. Total civil judgments, nearly $500 million. January 6th investigation. He told them to go there peacefully and patriotically. He didn't tell them to go there and go in the building. And actually, during all that, since it's come out, there's been like 20 some odd or 30 some odd FBI agents that actually were involved, mingling in with the crowd and actually went into the building. But they're okay because they're feds. But when that was all going down, the FBI director, Ray, said that he couldn't say if there was or there wasn't because it was still an ongoing investigation. But, of course, Ray retired before Kash Patel was put in that position. 2021 for inciting the January 6th, of course, like I just said, it was a fueling narrative. It was just the Democrats just fueled this narrative forever. They still are. It's ridiculous. His physical threats, his assassination attempts, not one, but two. Golf course incident was as well. But you don't hear about these guys, right? You don't hear about these guys at all. The first attempt, that Thomas Crooks, they shot him right on the roof. That guy had no phones. They went to his apartment. Even Joe Rogan's mentioned this numerous times. His apartment was scrubbed clean. It was clean. They didn't have a knife or a fork in the drawer. And his apartment was literally scrubbed clean. Crazy. And the kid had no social media. He had nothing. He had no Twitter, no Facebook. Insane when you think about it, right? So all the political hurdles that he's had because of these judges throwing up all these roadblocks when he's trying to get stuff done, crazy. Primary opposition, of course, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley he dominated them through the landslide in Iowa win in 2024. The midterms faltered a little bit, of course, and of course Trump. Here's another thing, right? So when Trump endorses somebody, right, and they win, they call him like a kingmaker. Just some that they slammed on him that he was the kingmaker. Well, he faltered in 2022 with some of the midterm losses that he he said, "Hey, I back this individual," and they didn't make it. So it put a dent in his kingmaker status in 2024. Put a huge financial strain, of course, on him. Cost him tens of millions of dollars, estimated tens of millions of dollars he had to pay for legal fees. But people are like, "Oh yeah, who cares? He can afford that." That's not the point, right? A lot of these things you shouldn't even be involved with in the first place. But this is what's called lawfare, and that's one of the things they were fighting. So I could go on and on, but you kind of get the gist of basically what they threw down there. So here's a list of some of his accomplishments. Top 15 accomplishments. Here they are right here. I'm not going to read all the details of them. I'm just going to say this guy accomplished this stuff, okay? So give him a bit of a break because he did do some good things. He did tax cuts, Jobs Act, signed a $1.5 trillion tax overhaul, slashing corporate rate from 35 to 21%, doubling the standard deduction, boosting short-term economic growth. The GDP hit a 4.1% in the second quarter of 2018. The Supreme Court appointments appointed 3 consecutive Justice Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Comey Barrett. He got out of the Paris Agreement Accord, and that's what Canada should do as well. That's the Carbon Accord bullshit. He got out 2017. ISIS, he defeated them in 2017, told the generals to take care of business. They did it in a couple of weeks. Other people told him it was going to take years. The USMCA trade deal 2020 replaced NAFTA, did that. Operation Warp Speed, accelerated COVID vaccine, of course. Criminal justice reform 2018, deregulation of cut 22 regulations for every new one per White House claims, easing burdens on businesses. That was called the deregulation push. Border wall construction, built 47 miles of new wall and 365 miles of replacement barriers along the U.S.-Mexico border. Abrams Accord 2020 brokered normalization deals between Israel and 4 Arab nations for peace. Peace. And he didn't even get the Nobel Peace Prize for that, but he got them peace for the first time in thousands of years. Let that sink in. Second term, 2025, present as of March 7th, January 6th, pardons. He pardoned 1,500 people, of course, had ties to January the 6th. And people are freaking out because, they did this and they did that. Well, show me exactly the ones that he pardoned and what exactly they did. Because I know the ones that just walked in, they literally just walked in and walked out. And I have video footage of it from my past podcasts. And some of these, one young man took his life because they gave him 14 years. But he'd kill himself before he got sent to prison. But numerous other people were sent to prison for 14, 15 years for walking in and walking out. They didn't do anything. Didn't break a window, didn't break a door, didn't do nothing, didn't touch a police officer. Ridiculous. Tariff expansion, imposed 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada imports and 10% on Chinese goods within weeks. DEI policy rollback, energy independent moves 2025. So these are a lot of things that he's doing, and this second term just started. So he's cooking. When a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over generations, the truth will seem utterly preposterous, and its speaker, a raving lunatic. So think about that. Just because I gotta click that out of there. Sorry about that. Just gonna get rid of that. Sorry. There we go. Yeah. So what's been happening, of course, like Elon Musk is trying to filter through all this stuff. But when people are telling other people information that they know, and other people that have been brainwashed over and over all this time, what they know, and it's actually wrong information, this is where this kind of a back and forth occurs sometimes, where people might think that the messenger's crazy. But don't shoot the messenger. You know?
Essentially, Doge is...
You can't shoot the messenger. So here's Elon Musk on Joe Rogan the other day when they were talking a little bit about the Doge.
Essentially, Doge has found the coffin where the vampire sleeps.
Yeah. We're reprogramming the Matrix. Like, success was never one of the possible outcomes. There's a Kobayashi Maru situation. If you're in the Matrix, success was never possible. The only way to achieve success is to reprogram the Matrix such that success is one of the possible outcomes. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We may or may not succeed.
Well, it's certainly a lot of fun to watch.
So when Elon said Kobayashi Maru, of course, that's a takeoff of a Star Trek scenario. It's an unwinnable scenario where, of course, Captain Kirk doesn't believe in the unwinnable scenario when he said Kobayashi scenario. So that's what basically Elon Musk is trying to say in regards to the government. Trying to find things in the government. It's difficult, right? It's difficult. So Elon Musk, let's get back to Elon here. Why do people dislike Elon? Why do they hate this guy so much? This guy is one of the greatest minds of our time. This guy here, Nikola Tesla, was one of the greatest human being minds ever on this planet. I'll tell you a little bit about him in a second. But Elon Musk is like the Nikola Tesla of our time, this time. And people go, well, screw that guy. That guy's an ass. He's done this, he's done that. Really? I literally had somebody tell me the other day that they believed he was Canadian. I tried to explain to them that no, he's South African. He was born in South Africa. Then his mother and himself and his brother and his sister came to Canada. He actually went to school in Canada, went to university and stuff. Then he went down to the States because it's easier to create wealth in the States than it is in Canada. So he went to the States. So he has citizenship in the States. So he has citizenship in 3 spots: South Africa, Canada, and the States. They literally wanted to take away his citizenship the other day in Canada. It's a whack we are, right? So what's with Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk's journey to becoming the world's wealthiest individual with a net worth of exceeding $400 billion as of late 2024. He is tied to his role in founding and leading and scaling several groundbreaking companies. While Musk didn't single-handedly invent every technology associated with these ventures, his vision, leadership, ability to turn ideas into profitable enterprises have been the key to his fortune. Here's a breakdown of what he's created in his life. In 1995, he created a thing called Zip2. What's Zip2, you might ask? Him and his brother Kimball did this. It's for the Compaq acquired it for $307 million, netting Musk about $22 million from that $307 million. What it did was it provided online city guides for newspapers, but digitally. He created a piece of software to do that. He's a smart guy. Then in 99, he created a little thing called, you may have heard of it, called PayPal. And he turned around and he sold PayPal for $175.8 million. So that was back in 99. Then in 2002, he created a thing called SpaceX. SpaceX, of course, he wants to go to Mars, but he also uses SpaceX to put Starlink, which is internet capabilities for satellites around the globe. Tesla, of course, he named it after Nikola Tesla, which is his electric vehicles. Actually, his one Tesla, I think it's the Y, the Model Y, is the best-selling worldwide vehicle in 2004, I believe. You could check that. I could be wrong. People do make mistakes once in a while because people aren't perfect, right? Solar City in 2006, Musk founded Solar City, which is a company for solar products that for pulling down solar from the sun and charging up your batteries and running your house. Solar City. And they actually made shingles that were solar. What a creative idea. Another one in 2016, the Boring Company is another one. So he actually created the convention center loop. So the Boring Company bores huge holes under the ground so people can go under the ground and fight traffic. That's what they do in Vegas. And he'll probably use that technology in Mars when they get there. Neuralink uses that to hook into people's brains so he can actually probably at some point he figures helps people to see that can't, and also people that are paralyzed to walk, and it goes on and on and on. That's called Neuralink. He started that in 2016. And XAI in 2023. Musk is big into AI, and of course he invests a lot of money in that, and now he's got a thing that's called Grok, and you can probably see it on Twitter. Twitter is another one that he spent $44 billion to buy it in 2022, and he did that because of free speech, freedom and free speech. And this is how this guy created his wealth. And every single thing I just read you, all was because of his brain, his mind, his creativity. He's the one that did it. No one else did it for him. He had people to help him, obviously. But it was his money, his initiative, and his know-how. And all his companies that he has all have to do with helping mankind. Think of that. All help mankind. His whole sole purpose is to help mankind. And mankind's shitting on him. Why? Because he's found money that has been spent, basically, right? Spent taxpayers' money in the States fraudulently. Okay? It's like I said in one podcast. It's like somebody comes into your store, they rob you blind. Elon watches the tape, tells you who it was that robbed it, and now you want to arrest him. You're an idiot. That's how simple that is, because he's trying to help people, right? Another thing about Elon, I had one person at one time say to me, oh, why doesn't he use all his money to help fight world hunger? And I said, well, he has. He did. He literally offered it. And this is what they said. Elon made a conditional offer relating to ending world hunger in October 2021. It stemmed back from a public engagement with a guy by the name of David Beasley, the director of the United Nations World Food Program, or the WFP. Beasley had appeared on CNN, stated that a one-time donation of $6 billion, roughly 2% of Musk's net worth at the time, could help address a severe hunger crisis. Specifically, saving 42 million people at risk of starvation due to a perfect storm of COVID-19 conflict and a climate issue. He called on billionaires like Musk and Bezos to step up. Musk responded on Twitter, and he said on October 31st, 2021, saying that if the WFP can describe on his Twitter's thread exactly how $6 billion will solve world hunger, I will sell my stock right now, and I will do it. And he handed a condition that the WFP had to provide open source accounting so the public can see precisely how the money would be spent. Beasley clarified that $6 billion wouldn't solve world hunger entirely, but could prevent famine for those 42 million people in 43 countries for a year. On November 15, 2021, the WFP published a detailed plan outlining how the $6.6 billion would be used. $3.5 billion for food and delivery, $2 billion for cash and vouchers, whatever that is, and the rest for logistics and administration. So let that sink in. People that say, oh, I could solve world hunger. Well, all he wanted was a condition, and they couldn't even do that. He wouldn't give them an itemized account. Kind of like what Doge is doing right now. If you go to Doge.com, they're totally transparent. You can go there right now, click on their site, and they will tell you an itemized account of what they're doing right now and what they've found in America. Of course, I'm not an American. I'm Canadian. That's why I always have the flag behind me. Proud Canadian. But I wore this today from my American brothers and sisters just to show them that Doge is taking care of business. And I wish we had somebody here in Canada that could do the same thing, because that's what we need. We need somebody to look after our business. So like I said, here's Nikola Tesla. Everyone's like, well, who's Nikola Tesla? What's his claim to fame? I won't read all the stuff, but basically he invented the Tesla coil, the induction motor, wireless transmission, radio, contributions, hydroelectric power, remote controls, neon fluorescent tubes, X-ray experimentation, the Tesla turbine. Tesla held over 300 patents worldwide and had countless ideas that were way ahead of their time, including concepts for radar, vertical takeoff for aircrafts, and even a thing called a death ray, a theoretical particle beam weapon he called Teleforce. His work profoundly shaped the modern world, particularly in electricity and electromagnetism, because he also invented alternating current. And him and Thomas Edison had a big back and forth because Thomas Edison had the direct current, which, of course, everyone knows now is deadly. And alternating current goes back and forth. It alternates, hence AC. So those are some of the things that Tesla has done for this world. I just wanted to throw that in there. So here's one here, the budget efficiency and accountability for valuable expenditure reduction, or BEAVER. That's what we should have here in Canada, right? That's the company we should have. Just because the stuff that goes on in this country is ridiculous. And I'm going to read some of this stuff off. You won't be able to hear it. You won't be able to hear it because it's there's no music in the background. But there is. I'll read it to you as we go. I'm just going to read some of it because there's a lot. So I'm not going to, for some of my American friends, go, a lot. There's a lot. So Breaking Global Affairs Canada abruptly deleted its entire public database of foreign aid spending. Think of that. It's crazy, right? Like, it's wild. Here's another one. Global Affairs, $8.5 billion. $8.5 billion in international spending. We are working to restore access along with all data as soon as possible. Well, what are they hiding? Here's one here. Some people are outraged that the Global Affairs Canada is spending tax dollars. How about $20 billion to promote DEI, hiding in Nigerian abortion clinics? I couldn't agree more with Jordan. He nails it. They are all in the same cabal, and the Canadians are being led to the slaughter if we allow Carney and his tribe anywhere near the power. Could you imagine the backlash if Biden had locked the doors to the Senate and the House and then appointed an unelected bureaucrat to become the president of the United States? Could you imagine? That's exactly what's happening in Canada right now, and no one seems to care. Mark Carney is getting classified briefings on Trump's tariffs. The catch? He's never been elected. He has no seat. He has no votes, no accountability. Trudeau is rigging the game, folks, and Canadians should be outraged. That's from the CBC. It's absolutely unbelievable. The guy's a fraud, domestic terrorist. Mass unemployment, housing crash, massive inflation. Maybe they shouldn't have thought about this before insulting Trump for months on end. Tariffs are tariffs, and they're going to happen anyway because they've been around forever, and that's just the way it works. It's been around for hundreds of years. I'm going to explain that in a bit. Couldn't agree more. Jolie has no diplomatic skill set, geopolitical acumen. I can't fathom the rationale for her original appointment to this cabinet role. She has zero. She doesn't have any. She just has nothing for this department. Nothing. And she's in it. She's in that position. No skills. It's unbelievable. There she is again. Global Affairs Canada, which is overseen by Trudeau. Foreign Affairs Minister Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie. Oh, boy. Melanie Jolie spent $51,000 on average per month on alcohol-related expenses. Like, seriously? That seems like a lot. Seems like a lot. How about exposing the programs is only half the battle? We need to expose the people responsible for the waste. Global Affairs falls under Melanie Jolie. According to the LinkedIn alone, almost 6,000 people work for Global Affairs. Check out some of their job titles. It's kind of crazy. It's on LinkedIn. Right there. Meeting with Klaus Schwab, chairman of the World Economic Forum, and the Canadian ministers in Davos. These are globalists, people. Globalists. They don't have you or me in their best interests. None. They just don't. They're globalists. MP to probe global affairs contracts after international audit finds one quarter broke the rules. It's like, I got 14 minutes of this stuff, but I'm not going to play 14 minutes for you. I just played a few off the top. June 9, 2024, McKinsey is everywhere. I am starting to think McKinsey runs the world. They certainly run the Trudeau government. Their cheating contracts must end. Look them up. It's unbelievable. That was at a senatorial hearing, or congressional hearing, sorry, or MP hearing in Canada here. It's wild. What's going on? Wild. This is a long one for sure, but it's what it is. Deep finds irregular 26% of contract sample, including conflicts of interest in 5 years, hired consultants 8,000 times, $567 million. It's not a typo. That's $500 million, folks. $500 million. Right? There's another one here. Canadian caught in USAID shutdown. Global Affairs Canada sends money to the USAID for projects. In this example, we sent $13 million to Peru to strengthen Peru's climate resilience. Thank you, Elon, for finding that. We are happy to take our money back. Anyway, this goes on, like I said, for about 14 minutes, but I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just not going to, because I have a few more things I got to do, and this podcast is getting long. I didn't want it to run this long. So, of course, right now we're in the middle of this whole thing with the Ukraine, with Zelensky and the money, and people are probably like, well, why did Putin invoke, or why did he basically invoke, not a war, but why did he invade the Ukraine? I'm going to give you a little history lesson here on it, and that's hopefully quick. So why did Vladimir Putin invade Ukraine? February 24, 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of the Ukraine driven by a mix of geopolitical, historical, and personal motives tied to Putin's vision. The key reasons? NATO expansion. That was the key reason, because Putin saw Ukraine's growing ties with the West, especially its potential NATO membership. That's important. As a threat to Russian security and influence, he wanted a buffer zone and feared NATO bases near Russia's border. So, historical claims: Putin's view of Ukraine as a part of Russia's cultural and historical sphere. Rejecting its sovereignty, he's called it an artificial state, citing that the Soviets' past and Russian Empire ties, aiming to reunify Ukraine. The domestic power, facing declining popularity and economic stagnation, Putin used the invasion to rally nationalist support and distract from internal issues, framing it as a defense against Western aggression. Of course, the 2014 fallout after Ukraine's 2014 pro-Western revolution ousted a Russian-friendly leader. Russia annexed Crimea and backed separatists in Donbass. 2022 invasion escalated this conflict, aiming to control eastern Ukraine and beyond. Strategic goals by Putin sought to weaken Ukraine's government, secure the Black Sea region, example Crimea's ports, and assert Russia's dominance as a global power against United States-led influence. In short, Putin invaded to stop Ukraine's drift west, to reclaim lost territory and flex, of course, Russia's muscle, rooted in his obsession with the legacy and control. The war, now a grinding stalemate with massive costs on both sides. Also got to keep in mind, back in 1961, you had the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis with John F. Kennedy and, of course, Nikita Khrushchev. And it started when the United States of America put missiles in Turkey in 61. Then in 62, Khrushchev put missiles in Cuba. Anyone that knows anything about geography knows that Cuba is now about 90 miles off the coast of Florida, a little close to the United States for John F. Kennedy's liking. Those missiles that they had in Cuba, the missiles and the base in Cuba, had nuclear warheads on them. So my way of thinking would be, well, how's that any different? Hey, I'm not saying it, Putin's a good guy, bad guy, I hate the guy, I like the guy. I'm just trying to get in his head and find out, why did he do what he did? Probably the same reason why John F. Kennedy did what he did. Because back in 62, they came close to World War III back then too. All because of missiles being too close. So what if Ukraine ends up in NATO, which is a bad idea in the first place, and Biden had no reason to say that he should be. If he was to end up with NATO, what's stopping them from putting missiles in the Ukraine, which is just right off the coast of the border of Russia, right? Putin's protecting himself. You also got to remember, Russia's been through a shitstorm over history. If you know your history, Napoleon tried to wipe them out in 1812, till they got to Moscow, and they burned Moscow down, and they burned all the food. Russians, man, they play for keeps, and that was in September, and then Napoleon lasted a month. Napoleon had to turn around and skedaddle because his people were dying because they were freezing to death trying to get back to where they started. So this is history. It's all part of it. So I'm going to show you another little clip here of Putin actually talking about that. He's literally saying right here, President Putin has some people that had forgotten what happened to Napoleon. He said, since the times of the French Emperor Napoleon, since then Russia and some of its people are still eager. There are still people who want to go back to the times of Napoleon, he says, forgetting how it ended up. That's what he said about Macron. Said something here. He said the comments came after the French president Emmanuel Macron hosted a state televised addressing calling Russia a threat. So he's kind of responding. He's kind of responding to that because Macron's calling Russia a threat, but then of course he says about, you know, people maybe forget about the War of 1812 when Napoleon tried to come and take over. So we're almost done the podcast. Man, it's been a long one, but it's well worth it because I had to get a lot of the stuff off my chest about this hate with Trump and Musk. Some people are going to watch it. Some people won't. Some people might share it. Some people won't. It is what it is. But like I said before, facts don't lie. So here's a little clip from Patrick Bet-David's podcast. I saw this early this morning or late last night. I forget which. It might have been late last night. But this is what Patrick Bet-David was saying about Pierre Poilievre here in Canada. I had to throw this on to shut down the podcast. See what he says.
It's just a debate.
Can you by this wacko prime minister?
Go back a little bit, Rob.
An end to this wacko policy by this wacko prime minister.
No. I'm going to ask the honourable leader of the opposition to withdraw that term, which is not considered parliamentary.
Mr. Speaker, I replace wacko with extremist. He is an
The honourable member to please. I'm going to ask the leader of the opposition once again to just withdraw that comment.
Patrick Bet-David literally just said, listen to how talented he is. So he's talking about Pierre Poilievre. He's giving him kudos.
Please.
I'll replace it with radical Baptist policy.
I am not asking to replace. I'm asking the honourable member to just simply withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, I replace the word wacko with extremist.
I'm going to ask the honourable leader of the opposition.
Go back. You get the idea, right? Go back a little. Let's go to another one, okay, to see how talented this guy is. Go to this next one. Project Taxpayer Funded. Okay, play this one here, Rob.
I'd like to welcome the Prime Minister back from his $80,000 vacation, which he got for free. He said, like most Canadians, friends welcomed him for that vacation. He took two, not one, but two private jets paid for by the taxpayer, burning 100 tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
Go back, Rob. So now go all the way to the top, if you could, and just type in podcast next to him. And do me a favor, eliminate his first name, just put Poilievre Podcast, and go to filters and go to views. And let's see what podcast he's done. Okay, zoom in. 18? So Jordan Peterson, 2 months ago, 5 million. He needs to do that once every other month. Okay, keep going lower. Specific to podcast. Keep going. That's another Jordan Peterson from 2 years ago. It's the only one he does. Keep going lower.
None.
Keep going lower.
He's eating an apple.
Keep going lower. Keep going lower.
Nothing.
Keep going lower.
Nothing.
Keep going lower. Another Jordan Peterson. Keep going lower. Keep going lower. Keep going lower. Other people are talking about him. Yeah. So guess what? You can be as talented as you want and as strong as you want, and you think you've won without earning the right to win. You don't believe in capitalism. You just want it to be handed to you. I'm sorry, Canadians. You need a better candidate that's willing to work their asses off to make Canada great again. And this guy didn't want to work. I watched him give messages. I'm like, what a great message. Get your ass in front of cameras. Didn't want to do it. Go talk to people. Pierre Poilievre campaigned the same exact way as Kamala Harris did. When it comes down to campaigning, not policies, he is Kamala Harris. Pierre, your hero that you guys wanted, does not want to work. I hope Canadians see this and send it around and blast him and encourage him to go talk to the biggest podcast in Canada. He's not too good for podcasts in Canada. He's only talking to Jordan Peterson. Go talk to the people. You say you want to be a man of the people? Go be the man of the people. That's what Milei did. That's what others did. Locked up behind camera just talking to Jordan Peterson, a mainstream type of people. This is 2025. A 78-year-old man did laps around you. And he went and took it from the other guys with all the games they played. You just want to sit there, play easy. Very disappointed. The reason why I'm disappointed is because I love the people.
See, I wanted to play that in its entirety because I didn't want to cut. I didn't want to cut him off. I wanted to play the whole thing, and I wanted to give him what he wanted to get out, and talked about Pierre Poilievre. His name's Pierre Poilievre or Pierre Poilievre. Everyone gets his name wrong, but that's okay. I mean, people call you Patrick but David, they might call you something else. I have no idea. How could you get it wrong, eh? But I know it's kind of tricky up here in Canada. Anyway, the way our system works here, Patrick, as well, is that you were saying that that he lost to Trudeau and a couple times. Well, he didn't lose to Trudeau because they haven't even had an election yet. I'm an advocate for Pierre. I like his policies. I like what he wants to do to make Canadians' lives better, our lives. To make what I do in my life better, not worse, right? And this is what we want. But you have to also look at, unfortunately, we have people in our house, the Democrats, which New Democratic Party, NDP, Green Party. They're going with the Liberals against the PCs. So it's all about numbers because we're a democratic society. We're not a constitutional republic like the States. Big difference. So anyway, he hasn't beaten Trudeau, or Trudeau hasn't beaten him. But Pierre Poilievre has a lot of great policy ideas. Just because he hasn't gone on a podcast, I believe that if he goes on a podcast, he's going to be like your Democrats are with Trudeau now. The Liberals here will eat him alive, and they start calling him an American and all this other stuff because he goes across the board and goes into a podcast. I would have liked to have seen him with Joe Rogan. I like to have seen him in Rogan's podcast. I think that would have been awesome because Joe is, of course, he's the man. He's the number one cat. So speaking of Joe Rogan, this was from a Mark Slapinski. And he posted this on his feed. He said, since Joe Rogan has already endorsed Pierre Poilievre, the next step should be having to maybe a chat with him so that Pierre can explain how he plans to secure the border, bust fentanyl dealers, and open up Canada for trade. Raise your hand if you would watch this interview. Well, I watch Rogan anyway, so I would watch Pierre Poilievre 100%. 100% for sure. So I'm going to play you one more video before I leave. And this is, you know who. And this is him the other day as his message.
On a personal level, I've made sure that every single day in this office, I put Canadians first, that I have people's backs. And that's why I'm here to tell you all that we got you. Even in the very last days of this government, we will not let Canadians down today and long into the future.
Crying on national TV. He doesn't have our backs. He says that all the time. But he does not have our backs. I could go on and on and tell you why, but all you got to do is just go on and check the internet out yourself. He does not have Canadians' backs. If he did, we wouldn't be in the conundrum that we're in. I'm going to give you one example how he doesn't have our backs. Just one. 2 years ago, Japan could have penned a deal with him for our natural gas. It was $1 trillion deal. He said no to it. I covered that in my last podcast. Guess who picked it up? What's that? Oh, that's right. Trump did. Trump signed a deal with Japan for that $1 trillion deal. So, who's the fool? Who's the winner? And who's the loser? I'll let you figure that out. So at the start of the podcast, I said when Trump was talking, if you've followed this long, because this has been a long one, Trump was doing his union address. I noticed something. Now, my theme at the start was, of course, he wants peace. He's always wanted peace. He said that from day one. I showed you video clips about him wanting peace. Did you notice the color of tie that he was wearing? Probably not. What color of tie does he usually wear? He usually wears a red tie. In this particular one, he didn't. He chose a tie that was the same, was the color if you were to take both red, which is the Republican color, and blue, which is the Democratic color, and put red and blue together, you get a color. That's the color that he wore. Purple. It's kind of a subliminal message of, you know what? After all the shit he's been through and all the shit the Democrat Party has put him through, all the lawfare and everything else, he still wants to work. He wants that country to come together. He loves his country. And you'll have people talking about, oh, he's a KGB agent and he's a Putin puppet. And it's like, these are like little lemmings jumping off a cliff. They're just following each other and jumping off a cliff. Go get some information, find out what's real, find out what's bullshit, filter it out. Knowledge is power. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening to today's podcast. It's been a doozy, but I had to get all this stuff out to the masses. So I'm going to be dropping this off, but thank you very much for listening to my podcast. Thanks for subscribing to my podcasts and liking them, sharing them, helps with the algorithm, spread it around. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to try to do 1 or 2 a week if I can. But there's lots of information out there that I can use for my podcasts. If there's anything you'd like me to try to cover, drop it in the comments below as well. And I'll see what I can do. I'm a busy man. I got lots of stuff on the go. But hey, F around and find out, right? I always like to drop off this last message just before I sign off. Kind of get serious, is about life. Life is tough, and it's not easy. Everyone has problems. Everyone's going through something. Everyone, just is struggling. I get it. Everyone is, myself included. But what we got to do, and what I've always done my whole life, is keep moving forward. You got to keep moving forward, man. You got to keep moving forward. You get knocked down 8 times, get up 9. Way it works, right? These old sayings about tomorrow being history and yesterday's a mystery. Tomorrow's a mystery, yesterday's history, and today's a present. That's why they call it the gift. That's the way it works. You got to pick yourself up, got to dust yourself off, and you got to keep moving forward because no one else will. Just you. All right? Like I said, thanks again for listening to my podcast, everybody. Much, much appreciated. And until next time, cheers.